The 48th UNESCO World Heritage Committee session, which is taking place in Busan, is bringing together experts and government representatives from around the world to discuss the protection of humanity's most valuable heritage. Today, we're joined by Melinda McHenry, an abiotic physical geographer, associate head of school at the University of Tasmania, and chair of Cultural Landscapes, Geoheritage and World Heritage at the Australian Geoscience Council. And we'll be talking about the future of World Heritage, the importance of geoheritage, and why international cooperation matters more than ever. Dr. McHenry, welcome to the program.
Hello, Thank you.
All right, so why don't we start with an introduction of yourself and also a little bit about your work in the field of World Heritage.
So I'm an abiotic physical geographer, and that means that I look at the parts of the landscape that are non-living. And those parts of the landscape are not as well recognised in terms of conservation protection. We see them every day. We think about beautiful mountains, wonderful rivers, we have caves, we have sand dunes and all of these scenic places. But until very recently, there wasn't a really good way to be able to recognise and protect the most valuable of these. So within the context of World Heritage areas, there is a criteria that talks about the history of the Earth. And there's another criteria that you can list a World Heritage area for that talks about the scenic beauty of a place. But despite that, less than 1% of World Heritage areas around the world are actually recognised for these criterion. And so as a result, some of my work and my passion comes from trying to make sure that those areas are better recognised, and also we have other ways to protect those non-living parts of our landscape.
That is wonderful, such an important role, Dr. McHenry. And you also serve as the UNESCO Chair for Geoheritage and Geoconservation. And speaking of UNESCO, I've heard you are already involved in the 48th UNESCO Committee session, World Heritage Committee session for Busan. So could you tell us how the experience has been so far? And also, what is the significance in Korea hosting this event, do you think?
So first of all, I'm within what's called a UNESCO chair network. So the chair of that network, Jose Brillo, is in Portugal, and I, along with 12 other experts around the world, contribute to recognising the goals of geoheritage conservation, including within World Heritage areas. So as part of the work that we are doing and contributing towards the World Heritage Area Conference, which is the 50th anniversary of World Heritage areas globally, we are trying to bring forward the initiatives of UNESCO around geoconservation and recognition of the livelihoods and cultural perspectives of people who rely on these non-living landscapes, including tourism and also agriculture.
I see.
Yes, Doctor, I find it very interesting that, like you said, that you do, study the conservation of certain areas that are hard to, repopulate when you are based in Tasmania, one of the most luscious places in Australia. But back to UNESCO. UNESCO has been placing increasing emphasis on soil science in recent years. I mean, who better to ask than an Australian? I mean, we have the word soil in our national anthem.
We certainly do.
So why do you think the study of soils has become so important in the field of heritage conservation?
I want to talk about this for a couple of moments, if I may. Firstly, Tasmania is actually the second most geodiverse place in the world.
Wow.
And so what that means is that for every geological time period that there has been and every type of climate impact that there is, we've got a residual landscape that represents that time period within Tasmania. And that makes it not only diverse and quite luscious, as you said, from an Australian perspective, but globally it's a very, very unique place. It's so unique, in fact, that in terms of the criteria that decide whether you can be a World Heritage area, Tasmania meets 7 of those 10 criteria. There's only one other place in the world that meets more criteria than that as a World Heritage area. So it's a wonderful place to be able to study and to do work. That's why I am in Tasmania. I'm not originally from Tasmania. I'm honoured to be able to work there and practice my work now. And part of that research that I do is around both the things that require protection from climate change, from human impacts, from mismanagement. And in the Tasmanian Wilderness World Heritage Area, the biggest challenge is fire. We have unique soils in that area. They support unique biodiversity, both rare and endemic plants and also animal species. And if a fire came through those areas, those soils would be completely lost. So that is a significant challenge for us to make sure that those areas are understood and protected. And the other thing that I care about very deeply is making sure that we have adequate representation of geodiversity, particularly soils within World Heritage areas. So when we're trying to look at a World Heritage area, we're obviously trying to select the best, the areas that are most emblematic and most representative of what the world has to offer. And you must be the best of the best to satisfy the criteria within your individual cohort or the individual thing that you're trying to do. But what that can lead to in terms of broader heritage protections is an overrepresentation of some different types of things and an underrepresentation of others. And Australia in particular is a place that suffers from what we call protected area elevation bias. If there's a mountain, you are conserved. But if you grow plants as a soil, then there is a lesser likelihood that the endangered ecological community that might grow upon you still exists, or that those soils are represented in a protected area such as a World Heritage area.
Right.
There being so many protected World Heritage areas in Australia as well. Your expertise lies in the cultural landscapes and the geoheritage. When people hear the term World Heritage, they often think of, you know, more like almost infrastructure, like temples and historical monuments. But geoheritage is another important part of the picture, obviously. Could you explain what geoheritage is and why it deserves more attention?
So geoheritage is the special, normally geoscientific, so we're saying the best type of this sort of rock or the best type of this type of mountain, the best volcanic process, whatever, that has both scientific and sometimes we say additional values. And those additional values can be for tourism, they can be for cultural livelihoods, and they can be for spiritual values. Australia has the longest continuously running culture of Indigenous peoples with the Australian Aboriginal peoples and nations, of which there are more than 200. And many Aboriginal nations have distinct stories about the ways in which the landscape has represented them and the way in which they use the landscape. So geoheritage deserves more recognition, both because it has a right to exist, like we recognise the koala bear of Australia, or the wonderful creatures or the beautiful flowers have a right to exist. Geoheritage has a right to exist, but more than that, it contributes in so many ways to people's livelihoods, both economically, in terms of agriculture, in terms of mining, mining history, mining futures, in terms of tourism, especially through UNESCO Global Geoparks, for instance, and tourism to World Heritage areas and natural areas, but also for cultural livelihoods, well-being and connection to nature.
And a couple of months ago, the Key Geoheritage Areas Korea Declaration, or in short KGA Declaration, has been unveiled. So could you tell us more about its significance and how it can contribute in the preservation of geoheritage in the future?
This was a very emotional moment for me and the others who contributed to the Key Geoheritage Areas documentation. So what we're hoping is to be able to protect at international level and recognise, and also at what we call the regional level, at the broader area at which something exists, those special values of geoheritage. So as I said, World Heritage provides us with some very, very good ways to describe some of the values, the outstanding universal values, but it doesn't cover everything. So where we might be looking for the best of the best in the world to be able to capture in a World Heritage Area right now, quite often the focus of that is on the broader context of broader nature, or as you said, broader culture, temples, monuments and things like this. Allowing a specific and dedicated key geoheritage area allows us to focus explicitly on those geoheritage elements and to be able to recognise them for what they are and for their right to exist.
Yes, I don't know how, if you've travelled a lot through Korea, but we have a lot of natural monuments in Korea, a lot that people go and visit, and I think the conservation of that is extremely important indeed. But as the host of this year's World Heritage Committee session, Korea has been placing even greater emphasis on heritage conservation. We've definitely seen it. We reported a lot in the show as well how important it is. What role do you think Korea can play in protecting World Heritage at the international level?
I think that Korea has demonstrated great proactive leadership in the World Heritage space. We are deeply indebted to the Administrator of Korea and to the Government of the Republic of Korea for helping and supporting us to be able to bring key geoheritage areas to life. Korea's leadership has enabled us to be able to come together as geoscientists and soil scientists and geoheritage conservationists around the world. We were able to travel to Busan just over 6 weeks ago and to look through some of your magnificent World Heritage and also UNESCO Global Geopark areas to explore and to see that potential on the ground. I think the area that Korea shows real leadership is in the interpretation and ways in which you are trying to show heritage to society at large in a way that maybe other countries don't do so much. And I feel that Jeju Island, which is going to be the area that will situate an office, as I understand, for key geoheritage areas, provides that really strong focus and really highlights geoheritage in a nutshell. It shows natural things, the volcanic landscapes. It shows the use of geoheritage through the soils and the agricultural livelihoods. And it also shows that people can live inside nature and coexist with it.
Dr. McHenry, before we go to the final question, just very quickly, is there one particular Korean heritage site that has captured your interest?
At the moment, it is Jeju Island. I have to say that's my favourite. However, I am here for a few days now. It's my second trip to Korea in 2 months, and I plan to be back again. I've fallen in love with Korea, so this is going to be my next exploration. I plan to travel to every geopark in Korea and every national park and World Heritage Area in Korea in the next year.
Yes, Jeju indeed is beautiful. And finally, let's go back to Busan. What is the one message that you would like to come out from the Busan committee session?
I think that people sometimes can mistake World Heritage Areas as a place that is shut off. We've put a fence around it. It's an area that is there because it's special and there's nothing else. Those World Heritage Areas there are our legacy of the past, but they're also our protection for the future. In a changing climate and with population growth and change, these World Heritage Areas will be our legacy to the earth. So they are deeply important, and they are important for many benefits, but also just the benefits of being able to show what we can provide for the future.
Of course. Thank you very much, Dr. McHenry, for sharing your expertise. It was a fascinating talk with you. Thank you.
Thank you. 감사합니다.
감사합니다. And thank you, Walter. We're going to have you back soon.
See you soon.